So I was watching a video on another homesteading channel in the homesteading community, a very popular YouTuber, and he was addressing something that I don't think I've heard brought up before. I kind of wanted to address it myself, and I also wanted to address how he addressed it. Many of you will recognize this YouTuber. It's Morgan from Goldshaw Farms. And I usually agree with Morgan on a lot of stuff. Not everything, not all the time. I think that Morgan is a very conscientious guy, and he's pretty reasonable. He tries to give both sides the best that he can, and I think he generally does a pretty good job of it. His video was titled, "They Want You to Think the World is Ending," or "The End of the World," or something to that effect. He went to the conference there, and I forget the name of it right now because I'm in southern Idaho and I'm a long ways away from that area, so I don't go to those. This is a subject that's on a lot of people's minds, and I think it needs to be addressed to some degree, and not everybody's going to agree. However, I don't require agreement, and everybody shouldn't necessarily require agreement. On this particular video, as I was reading through the comments, I was actually a bit surprised. There were a lot more people agreeing with him than I expected, actually. And that was kind of a nice surprise. And I'll be honest, I tend to agree with Morgan's sentiment, but I thought his delivery could have been a lot less condescending and more tactful and amicable. Especially since the point was about abundance and building community and so forth. I think that that's an important point to make, and I think Morgan overall did a pretty good job on that. I didn't care for the condescending, ridiculing somewhat he did of people of that mindset, and perhaps that's me because I used to be of that mindset. And I'll talk a little bit later about how and why I changed my mindset on that to a large degree. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with planning ahead, prepping for the future, that kind of thing. It's when you obsess over it day in and day out of everything that's going wrong in the world, and then you're worried about what might happen in the future, okay? That's where it gets over the top, in my opinion. Start taking that bunker doomsday mentality and pulling back. That's not building community. I think Morgan could be more sensitive to people with that mindset and their motivation to look out and protect their families. And that's where that comes from. There's also another motivation, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. As I said, I used to be of that mentality, so I definitely understand it. And it is a fear-based mentality. Most of those folks probably would not admit that. However, that's really where it's coming from. And one of the reasons why I'm addressing this is a very, very important reason. And I will get to that in just a moment here. Let me say this, we have to find a balance here. Now, a lot of people are worried about things that are going on in the world, and I can understand that. However, you don't have to obsess over it day in and day out. I know what's going on. I don't need to immerse myself in that negative bitch fest that goes on the internet day in and day out, and elsewhere in life too. And that's where a lot of people get caught up in, I think. And I think that that is unhealthy. Now, most people, and I'm sure Morgan does, probably lock their car when they go to the store, or lock their doors at night, that kind of thing, or plan ahead and stock up on things for winter. So there is a balance here. And so if people are worried about society collapsing and that sort of thing, some people aren't. But if you are, there's nothing wrong with preparing for that, but obsessing over it and worrying about what the future holds, again, I believe is an unhealthy attitude. And I had that attitude for a long time. I don't know that I was as obsessed as some people. Probably depends on who you talk to. However, I try to live in the now because that's what's happening. The future is not set in stone, my friends. Trust me, if something big happens, you'll hear about it one way or another. There's a saying, if you're not living your dreams, you're living your fears. And fear is one of the biggest motivators of that mindset, as I have mentioned. You're fearing what might happen in the future, and you don't know that that's going to happen. Listen, I was a lot younger when I was into that mindset, and I've been hearing this same stuff for 30 years. Does that mean nothing is going to happen? I don't know. It could happen, but I happen to think that it's highly unlikely that it's going to happen and play out the way a lot of people think it might. And so why obsess over that? If you really feel the need to be prepared for something like that, then prepare for it and then forget about it and quit worrying about it and go about your life and try to enjoy life as much as you can, especially your loved ones and friends and family, that kind of thing. You got to enjoy life too. That's part of the reasons that we're here, folks. I've been on this earth almost 64 years now. Okay, I just dated my age there. And one thing I've learned is that anguishing about the past and worrying about the future never changed a damn thing. Never, ever. It's just a distraction. And it means that you're not living your life. You're either living in the past or you're living in some uncertain future that you don't even know is going to happen. So now is the time to live your life. And if you obsess over it too much, it makes you a nervous wreck. And I know people like that. And I still have some friends that try to draw me into that mindset and even accuse me of sticking my head in the sand and all those kinds of things. It's like I said, I know what's going on. I don't need to obsess about it day in and day out and immerse myself in all that negative energy. Where attention goes, energy flows. So one of the reasons why I think it's important to not get obsessed with this kind of a mindset is because people don't realize, okay, I'm going to go all spiritual, metaphysical on you here now. People don't realize that they are actually contributing to bringing about whatever it is that they expect or fear. Now, that's not just woo-woo stuff. This is quantum physics, my friends. Quantum physics is now confirming much of the ancient wisdom on this sort of thing. Let me just put it in layman's terms. We create our own reality by our thoughts and our beliefs. Look into the double slit experiment, the observer effect, and entanglement in quantum physics, and you'll see nothing happens without an observer to create it. We are the creators of our lives. We're not victims of circumstances, my friends. I know that goes against every cultural thing you've ever been taught, but it's true. And there's some experiments that you can try to prove it to yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. And I've gone into this in some other videos on reality and so forth. You can look on my channel. One candle can light thousands of other candles and not lose any of its light. I'm of the mindset, my friends, that we need to share our light and share a positive attitude and look forward to a bright new future. That's where I'm going to put my energy. Now, some might say, oh, you're just naive or this or that. No, I'm not. I know what's going on, like I said. But I'm going to put my energy into looking forward to a bright future, because where attention goes, energy flows. And whether you believe that or not, we actually have an influence on reality. At least consider that much, because we do. Because look around you. Look around you. The world that we have created is because that's what we think. That's what we expect. Oh, everything that could go wrong will go wrong, and that sort of thing. What a terrible, terrible cliche that has been in our culture. How about whatever could go right will go right? What if we grew up with that instead? Wouldn't that be wonderful? As the saying goes, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. It's one of my favorite sayings. I think I might just make a video that centers around just that. It's so good. Think about that, my friends. Think about it. So here's an experiment that you can try, all right? For the next 2 to 3 weeks, whatever you think you can handle, all right, let's see how tough you really are. Whatever you think you can handle, try to find the good in all things, in every situation, in every circumstance that you might be in. Okay, I know that's not always easy to do, especially in circumstances that we consider hard or bad or what have you. I know that when you're in the swamp up to your neck in alligators, so to speak, it's hard to find the good in that sort of thing, right? Okay, I said that to somebody. I use that as an analogy because I know how tough it can be sometimes. And they said to me, well, first of all, you're still alive, so you have an opportunity to possibly escape. All right. I said to the person, now that's the spirit, see? They're immediately looking for the good in the situation. The bad is, oh no, I'm up to my neck in alligators, I'm gonna die. Might as well just give up. No, you're still alive and you have a chance to escape. Okay, no matter how grim it might seem. Okay, so that's the point. That kind of drives the point. It's an extreme example of driving the point home. Now, there's another saying, you're either winning or you're learning, okay? So every situation is a learning experience. There's really no bad experiences, there's just learning experiences. As I look back on my life, the times that I grew and learned the most were some of the hardest, toughest times in my life. Now, I recently did a video a while back on perhaps the toughest time in my life ever, and it's entitled something like From Suicide to Happiness. Go look that video up if you want to hear my story on that. I now look back on that whole incident as one of the best things that ever happened to me in my whole life. You could probably look back on some things that you thought were almost the end of the world at the time and realize that all the good that came from it. So if you try to take that attitude, then you can start seeing the good in all things. It takes a little practice, but you can look for the good in all things. The other thing is when you learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn, then the circumstances disappear and change for the better. So now when I find myself in a situation where I'm frustrated or having a hard time or whatever, I immediately go, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? I take that tact to get myself moving in the right direction and see the positive side of all things. And there's a scripture that speaks to that. I've mentioned it several times before, that all things work together for good. And that's how they do, because we're here learning stuff. We're learning what not to do at the very least on some things. So Morgan spoke about abundance and community, etc. And I really liked that part, and that's what I'm all about. And I'm all about peace and goodwill to all and love, my friends. So I'm going to get all spiritual and metaphysical on you again here and say that we must embody love. It's actually our true essence. It's who we really are. And there's some scriptures that say God is love, and we are unique expressions of God, so to speak. And we must learn to get control of the animal or carnal nature of ourselves and find that divine nature within us and set that on the throne of our lives to guide our lives. This is what the ancient wisdom and the scriptures have been trying to teach us for millennia. To go within. The kingdom of God is within you. I am in the Father is in me, and I am in you, Jesus said. So let us seek this love, this abundance, this community, peace and goodwill for all. Light that candle within and let that light shine without, my friends. All right? Until next time.